back, Marty, so they'll get him refired, and then he will join back into the group exactly where he is positioned. Remember, he did qualify third, and as you mentioned, he was taken back to the pack because of crossing over the white line in qualifying. Now, this might be something a little bit more.
GCU E mode then.
They are recycling the ignition on this, so something has happened.
And now he's underway. And as you said, he will be able to
watch these guys in front of you now.
Get right back into his position.
Straight up onto the track. Watch your speed now till you get out there.
And we're going to just let him get back up to the group because he's got to get his mind back into the program to get going into turn 1 at 200 miles an hour here very quickly.
All right, let's get our final updates from pit lane. Jamie Little, you're up.
Well, we've talked a lot about Will Power, and you know, he waited very patiently for an entire year to get this full-time ride with Roger Penske. Well, so far this year, it has paid off. After 4 races, he has 2 wins, 3 poles, and he is the series points leader. But we're on an oval. He doesn't have as much experience here. He told me yesterday, due to his lack of experience, he doesn't see that as an excuse. He feels he has a car capable of winning, and he wants to get the job done today. Vince?
Well, this is the first of 4 straight races that'll be run on an oval. A third of the field here today has limited oval experience, and there are 4 drivers that have never driven an IZOD IndyCar Series machine on an oval in a race. Their goal is the same: run to finish, get as many laps and as much experience as possible that they can use to their advantage over the course of these next 4 races. But one thing you've got to keep in mind, and they were warned in the drivers' meeting, the longer your stint goes, the fuel load is going to burn, the tires are going to wear, the car's handling is going to be much different than you have experienced in the past. Keep an eye on those drivers with little oval experience. Rick DeBrule?
Well, another new driver this weekend is definitely no rookie and no stranger to the ovals. John Andretti out here with Richard Petty Motorsports and Andretti Autosport back here because he's going to be running at Indy. This is going to be a warm-up. Where else can you get a guy with this kind of experience? He's won an open wheel. He's won in NASCAR. He's won the 24 Hours of Daytona. So this is a warm-up to get ready for Indy, not just for him, but for the team as well. They pulled all these guys out of the garage. They pulled them out of the works. Now they're going to gel together this weekend, so they're ready for Indy. Marty?
And it's always great to have John back in the field. Here are our GoDaddy.com rules of racing.
Well, 20 pushes for the drivers to get a push to pass. More horsepower. It lasts 12 seconds in length. Takes 10 seconds for recovery. We'll watch for that throughout the day. The pit window here, 45 to 50 laps, depending on the strategy in the yellow, probably 3 to 4 stops here today. And the fuel trim, big issue here because there's no longer a driver adjustable fuel trim inside the cockpit, and it's always on full rich, full racing mode, and the drivers will have to make up some fuel trim options themselves by driving, Marty.
Here are our 6 on board. You already know we have one with Dan Wheldon as we talk to him, Danica Patrick, Scott Dixon, Marco Andretti, Ryan Hunter-Ray, and John Andretti. So the field is now forming up as we are on the final warm-up pace lap as they head down the back straightaway. And of course, we'll be keeping our eyes up front on the first few rows, but also keeping tabs on Dan Wheldon and Marco Andretti, especially Wheldon. As we mentioned, he actually qualified 3rd on time, but got sent to the rear because of the violation over the white line. Coming through turn 3 and 4, pace car pulls off. They come down the front straightaway here at Kansas Speedway, and race number 5 of the 2010 IZOD IndyCar Series is green. Fresh tires, 3 wide through the corners, down the back straightaway and into 3. And already with the full fuel load, you're seeing the sparking as these cars are hitting some of those bumps.
Now those sparks will certainly go away as they burn off fuel, but in a couple of laps, once the tire pressures start to come up, then certainly the car comes off the ground.
Marco Andretti is on the move. As we mentioned, he was in the back of the field. Right now he's already up to 19th, and we're on board with him here on lap 2. The race leader is Ryan Briscoe, and here he goes outside to Takuma Sato. Elio Castroneves right there coming into your screen and leading this front pack with Vitor Mir right behind him, and then a 3-car wide routine, but they finally sort out. Mike Conway was sort of in the middle of that for a moment. Everybody said, well, cooler minds prevail. Tony Kanaan also in that mix. There you see him in the 711 machine.
Now Tony's always one that gets the most out of his car, and we move up to the front here. Now we see the Penske and Ganassi run that's going on. And now for Ryan Briscoe, who was on pole and has a lead, and was certainly a disappointment, I think, for the Ganassi team, Marty, because they thought they would have a shot at qualifying on pole here and taking the points that go along with that.
That's a Hideki Muto right there in the 06, the 24 of Mike Conway. That is for position. As these two side by side with Tony Kanaan now sneaking up into this mix. It is still Briscoe, Dixon, and Franchitti, your top three. And while all these guys are side by side, it's allowing that first group to pull away.
And Mike Conway just still working to try to get past Hideki Muto. Now Conway sometimes doesn't have the most amount of patience. I'm sure his spotter right now is telling him, patience, patience, patience. It's a long race. You're wheel to wheel, 210 miles an hour. There's no room for error here.
And you see the numbers in the battle for sixth right now, and you get a wider view here on the track as the logjam really is further back. There's Helio Castroneves and Vitor Meira. They're still going after each other, hammer and tong. Battle for fourth. And now Vitor pulls behind. Well, not for long.
Well, as a race driver, you don't ever want to be behind the car that's in front of you, that's for sure. Right now, you should be getting into a rhythm here, starting just to get a feel for how the car is working. The tire pressures are up, the temps are up, and you're starting to see what kind of a car you have. Remember, since we qualified yesterday, the last time these cars were on track, we have the NASCAR trucks here this weekend, and they are actually been running here this morning, so the track is going to be just a little bit different.
And that's a Goodyear rubber instead of Firestone rubber, and so you're right, a few laps to get it worn in. On board with Danica Patrick with Ryan Hunter-Reay, and Ryan has been on the move from the drop. He's up to 14th right now. Danica has dropped back to 13th, and she's about to get dumped to 14th.
Well, and speaking to those guys this morning, both TK and Ryan, the drivers meeting, some changes made from the car from where it was yesterday. They had to because did not have very strong cars in qualifying. But Marty, more times than not, if your car's not working in qualifying, you put it in a race scenario, and all of a sudden it starts to work not too bad for you because all the other cars that are on the racetrack make that swirl pot and sort of help drag you along in the tow.
Marco Andretti, who also started back in the back of this field, he too is on the move, as Andretti right now is in 15th position. There's Takuma Sato underneath him. We can tell you the one guy who hasn't moved much is Dan Wheldon. He is running 22nd right now. Let's go back and check up on the lead up front. Ryan Briscoe has a 1/10 of a second lead. That's what it looks like right there with Dixon second, Franchitti third, and then it's another second back to Vitor Meira and Helio Castroneves. We're going to go side by side here at Kansas. After 15 of 200 laps, Ryan Briscoe has led from the drop of the green flag, and he'd only led 13 laps all season long in the first 4 races. And as we mentioned, he's already led 15. Now you notice there's a change for second. You probably saw it on side by side. Here's what it looked like.
It looked like Dixon just got a bit of a wiggle as he started to make it a bit of an aggressive move behind Briscoe. Maybe his car's not going to be working for him in traffic as of yet. Wait for him to make some changes during the fifth pit stop, and actually what ends up happening here with Dario Franchitti, he'll turn around and end up taking second place, Marty.
Jamie, let's get more on that 9 car.
Well, Marty, actually what we've noticed down here, the wind is picking up, and that's exactly what Scott Dixon said. He said the wind has picked up and pushed me up the track. That was a big issue yesterday in practice, especially coming out of turn 4. There was a lot of push in the car. So right now, car seems to be just fine for Scott. It's just a matter of the wind gusts.
John Andretti and Will Power sort of sliding back a little bit further. Right now he is 16th. Andretti is 15th as they are heading through the corner side by side, and right in front of them another pair of cars side by side as well as we look out the back of Danica Patrick's car. Danica right now running 14th. She's got her hands filled on the high side with Rafa Matos.
And for John Andretti on the low side there in the 43 in the Petty Andretti Autosport team car, what a job he did. Hadn't been in the car for such a long time. Came here for a one-day refresher earlier this week. Team was very impressed. He was right up to speed. Goes across the backside of the car in front. And what ends up happening with that, you lose the front end. You heard him get out of the gas. And then now he's back on trying to do the chase.
All right, let's go back to the battle up front because it is still Ryan Briscoe, Dario Franchitti, Scott Dixon. Then you can see Vitor Meira off to the right in 4th. And Helio Castroneves rounding out the top 5. And here comes Dixon on the high side, looking to take back second place.
Now what he's going to hope is that Franchitti, being on the lower side directly behind Briscoe, is going to have to get out of the throttle a little bit, which he did because he was falling behind some dirty air. He would have washed up the racetrack and into his teammate. So very smart move by Franchitti, lets his teammate go ahead.